And and today's theme fits like right into this, challenging the status quo. Love it or list it, because we want to see what we want to really put out on the market, maybe toss out, change, think about. And it's so funny because when we started talking about this, and I was thinking about challenging, I had to run straight from my closet and get my jean jacket, put my buttons on, get my swag out, because I feel like I just want to kind of fight a little bit, but I don't know why. That's probably just me. Anyways, but truthfully, the original idea that came out of this, we really had lots of really long discussions about this year for activists. When we stepped up in 2017, many of us for the first time in politics, it was kind of easy because we were contesting against Republicans. We wanted to win, we wanted to flip. And then in 2018, it was flipping more and then holding seats. And now we're entering into kind of I think a new era where we're seeing so many challengers right now in the primary. I think, what do we have, about 15 challengers running against incumbents. And so this is a really new process, and we wanted to explore what's that like when you challenge a system, what it does to relationships, what it can do for the party, and what it does for our democracy in the end. Because it really is, when we challenge any power institution, it is about, really democracy. It's wanting more equity, more access. And so we want to talk about that today, exercising our bodies, making them stronger. Is it good? Is it healthy when we're exercising this body politic? So that's why we're doing this today. So we're glad you joined us. And so today it's also we hope you stay for the after chat. We have a special announcement because it's been all on social media and just in the news that Virginia, this incumbency process, we had a state board recent decision not to extend an extension for some of the primary candidates in the Virginia. And actually, I got a call from somebody in Oregon saying, what's going on in Virginia? So let's talk about what's going on. So stay for the after chat. We'll have Matt Rogers here, a couple other candidates, just trying to give us the 411 on what's going on, not taking a position against candidates or the for or against, but for our democracy, we want to make sure that we are making sure everybody has a seat at the table. All right, so we have a packed lineup. We have some great guests. Tom Perriello is here. We also have from Equality Loudoun, Charlotte McConnell. Thank you, and president of Equality Loudoun. And we have the executive director of Virginia's People PAC, Angela Casey. Hello, Angela. And Veena Gupta-Loth from the executive director of Emerge Virginia. Welcome again, Veena. And then also Elizabeth Melson from Fair Vote Virginia, and Becca Blas, co-founder and executive director of Blue Bonnet Data. And we will just get right into thanking my team. Thank you for this Power Lunch team today. I want to introduce everybody. We have Robin F. Warner back there in the controls of Postcards for Virginia. Woohoo, the show wizard. And right over to Stair Calhoun, our ambassador of Buzz. Hey, Stair, she's working it, letting you in the room, and if you're bad, she'll kick you out. And then, of course, MC extraordinaire, Krista Jones, Vote, Lead, Impact, my friend, the show maker. Hey, I like your yellow.
Thank you. I tried to go my own way with the yellow today.
You did go your own way, and you're bringing it with that necklace too. I love it. I'm going to come. If you clean your closet out, will you invite me over?
Absolutely.
And Louisa Borowski is not here, our news anchor. She's out making some news, I'm sure, and she will bring it. We will put it in the chat. So you are invited to the April 11th, 4 p.m. Virginia Grassroots Coalition meeting. And if you want to adopt a candidate, get into politics, that's the place to be in Virginia. All righty, so let's get this party started. Oh, I know. Oh my gosh, my team will be very upset with me if I don't do some PR. Right? We want to make sure that you know that you could be a patron of the show. Thank you, Charlotte. Just today, Charlotte McConnell became a patron. That meant a lot to us. Thank you. And if it means bringing you on the show, we'll bring 140 people up here and you can become a patron. Yay! I'm teasing. No, we really appreciate it, bringing quality programming. So thank you very much. Okay, so what do we want to do? Do we want to get started? Do we have our first guest here? We
We
do.
do.
We do, because I wasn't paying attention. I was talking to the people. So, so Tom Perriello, welcome. Come on up here. Let's get a
Thank you so much. Great to be
Hey,
here. Love the energy.
yeah, well, you know, us women, we bring it, this team. We've been doing this now since 2017. And now, Tom, we got a show. We're so glad you're on it.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I literally cannot say no to Stare, so it was an easy yes.
Could we tell you that our secret that we called your mother?
I am aware. I am aware. And yes, so
That's wonderful. Well, we'll just get right into it. I mean, like I said, we're so pleased you're here. You are, a lot of us have just an affection for you, what you brought to politics in 2017 when you ran for governor. I remember seeing you at a Blue Revolution meeting, I think in Falls Church at that restaurant over there. And so, you know, we're just really definitely impressed with what you've been doing. You know, you're a former congressman, obviously, in District 5. You're from Charlotte. You're a hometown guy, and now you're working for Open Society, which supports efforts to advance equity, fairness, and justice. And that's with the focus on marginalized communities. So we're so awesome. It's so awesome the work you continue to do. But we thought of you right away when we started to talk about challenging the status quo. So let's just hear from you, your background, your story, and what led you to run for governor of Virginia. We love to just give you the floor and take it away.
yeah, no, I seem to always get called up as everyone's favorite loser, and I'm actually somewhat proud of that. Every year when the Affordable Care Act has its anniversary, I usually get rolled out for, you know, how courageous it was to take that vote. And I always say that we've set the bar for courage really low. It was an easy vote to do then. And, you know, the way that I obviously ran for governor 4 years ago, was incredibly proud of my team. And you know, I was just on the phone with this amazing woman, Corundy Williams, that runs Repower and is doing a lot of training of people of color running for office and organizing. And we were talking about the fact that frequently change is made not necessarily by people who win elections, but by people who step up to run and change the terms of the debate. We were talking about the dialectic between Lyndon Johnson and Martin Luther King, where elected officials have to work within the sense of what's possible, and movements try to change our sense of what's possible. And that's in our best moments where we have leaders willing to take a bolder version of what's possible. And I do think 4 years ago, when we did things like run on 15 an hour, people considered that to be completely untenable statewide in Virginia. Governor Northam, to his credit, adopted that policy after us and then fought for it. And not only did he run on that in the general election, but the Republicans didn't even run attack ads against it. So you saw something go from seeming like it would be a deal breaker to them, you know, part of that was because they were much more excited to bash immigrants and people of color than to focus on the 15 an hour. Same thing with criminal justice reform, you know, and bringing down statues of white supremacy and other things. So, you know, you can do a lot by running and winning when you're challenging a system. But I also think that, you know, I didn't put together as compelling of a campaign as some of the candidates we have running this year who have incredible experience. We can talk about that race. So, you know, I really do think you can challenge a system. I think what we saw with the delegates who won in the wake of that, the most diverse slate ever, again, changed the sense of the possible, where many in the establishment thought we might pick 3 or 4 seats, and we got 16. So it can be really exciting to be bending that arc.
No, I think it's, you bring up just, I think the positive points of challenging, right? I think you're right. That's how change is made. We push people. And when you did, you know, you push them more to this progressive stance. And I know that this is interesting, though, you know, being on the inside of this and watching it happen, is this how it affects then personal relationships, or affects other things, and how do you make these decisions? So in the sense of some advice when we look at, for people that are running right now and what you see kind of going on from your point of perspective, what kind of advice can you give to actual people that are running, thinking, about how to approach this, even when you have to call your friends and people have to choose, right? Like, hey, I'm running, and then we've had that happen, and there's sometimes serious fallout for that. So how do you kind of counsel people on that, on the personal side of this?
It's tough. I mean, the real answer is not to take it personally, but it's much
Yeah,
easier to say that than to do it, because the fact is, when you're running, everything's on the line. And so it's your end all be all. And you get so disappointed with people who you think were going to step up for you. In my case, there were a lot of people that were begging me to run and get into the race. And then as soon as I got in the race, got the call from Terry and, went the other way. And
right.
Terry's very good at playing that kind of politics, and that's to his credit, and often used for good. So, it can get very personal. I'll be honest, my family tended to take it much more personally than I did.
Right.
My
Right.
my brother and my mother have a pretty good recollection of everyone who did and didn't support us. And I frankly, I got in late, and a lot of people had already endorsed for me. I made the argument I could make. So I tend to take it a little less personally, but
Yeah.
it's,
Well,
it's
I think that may be some good takeaway, is that we can sometimes let other people kind of take that role. And I think as a candidate, you sort of kind of try to stay on the focus. And sometimes you can't help your family member that just that gets all kind of bent out of shape and not get caught up in that. But I think that's definitely a good way to take that on. And so how about the party system of it? Let's get to the dynamics of the, we have a guest here today for ranked voting, for instance, and possible solutions. Because what I see sometimes, it frustrates me, I'll be honest, as an activist on the outside trying to look at the Virginia Democratic Party. I feel like we're sort of get stuck, and we get stuck in these silos, and and then sometimes on the outside we're trying to figure out how to negotiate our way around the Virginia Democratic Party. It's sort of like it's hard to move them. They want to stay in the status quo, bringing new things to the table, new ideas. There's a little pushback. So sometimes I'm always also looking for positive solutions around how we can change the system. People in power want to hold on to that system. That's how it works. And then we want to change some of it for the better, because in the end, it is about democracy, right? It's about where the person that I'm here, I want my voice heard. I want my elected to represent me. And we have a system that has gerrymandering. We have a system that sometimes works against it. So in your mind, for that party structure, looking at how it's kind of, let's, for lack of a better word, rigged a little bit, what are some changes that come to mind that you think are positive solutions around that, or stuff that we could consider?
Look, and this is partly my day job at Open Society, is to think more creatively about democracy. Democracy doesn't just mean an election with a first past the post system. There are lots of different ways to engage people civically and have a government that is accountable to the demos, to the people. Certainly ranked choice voting, something closer to universal voting or automatic voter registration, the kinds of things that are on HR 1 and HR 4
Right.
can be valuable to that. Changing away certainly from the districts. I'm not a big fan of the redistricting solution that went through. I think it's a missed opportunity, but we'll hopefully get at least slightly better maps than we had before as part of this. You
Right.
think about something like my old district. When I ran the first time in 08, part of it was because I was so sick and tired of having to vote for the least bad candidate, often a Democrat who didn't necessarily stand on their convictions and the rest. And my friends said, well, then, you can only complain for so long. Why don't you show people there's a different way to do it? And when we ran that race, we started out 36 points behind, and we ran on a deeply progressive and populist framework, not without some exceptions. And we really tried to show that you could do it a different kind of way there.
Yeah, winning in a different kind of way. And I know there's another side of this besides the party structure. I mean, we also see, I'm just trying to still understand this as somebody that tries to not get too deep into into committees, Democratic committees and politics, but that's where all the power is. But, you know, there's rules too. There's rules, manners, etiquette, you know, so if you want to speak a little bit about that part of it, and if there's any way to even change that, or that's just kind of normal if, you know, that incumbents don't endorse, there's certain rules, there's certain manners, there's certain protocol, and I think that's in place for just maybe to avoid sort of a chaos, so people can say no or
Yeah.
yes, maybe, right? What's your take on that, the personal, that?
Well, first of all, you know, I've got a lot of respect for people who do the work of the party year in and year out, because it's not very fun.
Right, true.
And it's often unpaid. And, you know, I think people remember who showed up. You know, that was one of the things I really respected when people who sided with Northam over me 4 years ago, where they were like, hey, Northam's been in the trenches with us for the last 4 years while you were off getting peace deals in the Congo. And there were reasons I felt like I had a more compelling counter argument, but I totally got why people, particularly those who were trying to advance legislation in Richmond,
Right.
you know, appreciate the people that are for the party year in and year out. That being said, I think that, you know, it can have an incumbency effect, but we've seen plenty of people who are not from the old central casting, which was often white, male, and old, step up through. I mean, Jennifer Carroll Foy certainly not asking anyone's permission
Right.
to be running the first time when she ran for delegate, or now. We have an incredible slate of lieutenant governor candidates, I think the most diverse in American history, not just Virginia history. So, you know, people can do it, but yeah, there's a reason why challenging an incumbent is a tough thing to do. I do think groups like yours, the resistance groups that have shown up, have really changed the center of gravity. So there are a lot more opportunities for someone who didn't come up through the party structure to run and finance a campaign. And financing is obviously a big part of that. And make their case. But ultimately,
Right.
you know, it can be frustrating to see a good message drowned out by party establishment and money. But that's part of what you're stepping into.
Yeah, that's true. And I know Virginia, all eyes are going to be on us again. So, and what are your just basic takeaways as we look at even what's happening in the news today with the state election board not allowing the extension for some of these candidates? Where do you think that's going to go? We're going to talk about that in the after chat. And then I'd love to bring the next guest up, and you need to stay because she really wants to say hi and meet you. So yeah, what and a wrap
I
up.
think we've met before, but
Good.
I will. So just quickly, I mean, I want to take a moment to just celebrate how proud I am to be Virginian right now. I mean, death penalty moratorium,
Yes.
mandatory minimum reforms, equality being advanced, voting rights being expanded, monuments coming down. I mean, I can't tell you, as you know, my headquarters is in New York now, though I've moved back to Virginia, how much fun I'm having just saying to my friends from bluer states, like, hey, you guys haven't gotten here on all this stuff. And, you know, everything you all did made that possible.
Right.
Shout out to Cindy Cunningham in particular on the criminal
Yes.
justice reform and death penalty work. But that was getting these delegates elected. And this younger generation of delegates come from different backgrounds and perspectives. They weren't hearing the old sense of the possible. Someone said, well, isn't this just because Democrats got the majority again? I was like, remember, the last time Democrats had the majority, they were the ones putting these bad laws in. So it isn't just about Dems versus Republicans. It's about getting the party itself moved in the direction of justice and equality and fairness. So I think there's so much to be proud of there. I think there's so much to be proud of with the candidates we see running statewide, just incredibly impressive. You know, one of the first campaigns I worked on when I was in middle school, 9th grade, was us electing the first Black governor in the history of the country. And, you know, we have a chance, obviously, to make history again this year.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a lot to be excited about and proud of. And again, all the work you all have done has helped drive transformation.
No, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being here. And I'd love to continue the conversation by bringing Charlotte up on the screen. Charlotte McConnell.
Hello.
Equality Loudon. And Charlotte is a friend. We met each other in the we don't call it the resistance movement, if you will. And Charlotte just impressed us all. At first, we were kind of shocked a little background. When Jennifer Wexton, as the Virginia Senator, decided to run for Congress, Charlotte surprised us all and stood up and ran against a very popular delegate at the time, Jennifer Boysko, who wanted to run for that seat. So why don't you tell us about your story, what with Tom here? And first of all, why don't you get to say hi to, you were so excited to be on with Tom.
Yes. Hi, Tom. It is so good to see you again. My son, Orion, was like a huge supporter of Tom's. And once Northam won the primary, I had to explain to my son when we went to vote and like support Northam, like, it's okay. Northam is a good person. We're going to vote for him. I really had to talk him through it. But I ran in a very unique situation where I was literally running against my own delegate. So Jennifer Boysko was my delegate. The special election came up. We kind of knew we were hopeful it was going to happen, and getting rid of Barbara Comstock was one of my greatest challenges and pride. So I'm glad we were successful in that. But I really thought that some of the issues needed more focus. And I didn't think that Jennifer Boysko was going to focus on those issues. And I met with her and I talked about campaign finance reform. And I said, hey, will you take the Activate Virginia pledge to refuse money from Dominion Energy and Appalachian? And she said, no. And I was like, okay, then, I'm gonna run, because I never thought of running for office until Trump was elected. I wasn't involved in politics. And then I went to a school board room, a meeting in like December of 2016. And then I was just like hooked. And I spent 2 years going to the school board to pass inclusive policies for LGBT students. And this is, American Sign Language for clapping. And that's how you show your respect or appreciation for something in the school board room. And it's a tendency. I do it all the time. So if I do that, you know why. But yeah.
Well, no. So Tom, do you have any question you'd like to ask Charlotte? I just off the top of your head.
So many things. First of all, thank you for just continuing to do all the great advocacy that you do on behalf of so many different parts of our communities. I'm just curious how you're seeing this year. In Virginia, I mean, we're still in COVID. We've got this incredible General Assembly record. Do you think this is a year where we're going to see progress move forward in terms of opportunities here in Virginia?
Well, I'm a little concerned because I think that people might be afraid. I think when you ran for office, Tom, people were afraid because we had been burnt so badly by Trump. We didn't think that could happen. And here comes a person who's progressive and talking about all these wonderful things like that. I think they were afraid to reach for the future that was possible. And I don't want that to stop people this year because we have made amazing progress. And I think the people running this year are running because they really want to do something. I've talked to a lot of candidates who are running for the first time and they're like, COVID inspired me to run because I don't see my priorities aligning with my reps. So I think that it is really important when we run for office that we don't take it personally. Like I have respect for Boysko, absolutely. But my ambition is not a reflection on what you have done or what you're about to do. But I think I can do it better, so. Hold
on, everybody in the room, everybody. Clapping. That's great. That's going to be our new power lunch thing, Charlotte.
Good. I'm glad I could help. And it's American Sign Language for clapping. It's not jazz hands, people. So
okay. No, yeah. Oh, yeah. But you know what you just said there. I think I saw Krista shaking her head. I know that this is one reason we reached out to you. You had this personally. You did it. We watched you do it, and a lot of us at first weren't sure why. And I think because we're just also learning, and there's a lot of inside politics and inside games, not games, wrong word, is like you said, not to take it personal is a really good takeaway. Now, do you have any other takeaways from this or lessons learned that you can depart before we depart to the spin of the wheel?
Well, we've been saying for a long time, run everywhere. We want, especially women, to stand up and run. But then all too often when they do stand up and run, we tell them to, sit back down. And I really do think that the more candidates who are out there on the doors, the higher the voter turnout comes out, and candidates get to work on their messaging. They get to really interact with people. Like, I'm sorry, but Saslaw would not have been out on the doors unless Yasmin had been coming for him. So, it's important. We can't get complacent. So thank you for having me on too.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point, and I'll give Tom some last words too. What you just said is, like Tom brought up at the beginning, it just really pushes the conversation, gets out subjects that wouldn't normally be pushed. And then there's like one just little thing I have to throw in because I can't help myself. I think it's hard for us right now in this race with the governor, the change we want, the future we work for, the 4 years we built, to have sort of the status quo feel like it's coming back at us. And I think that's frustrating for a lot of us. So if anybody has some last thoughts on that, but I think for us working so these last couple of years, I don't know, Tom, I feel like we're going back and we're stuck. And so how do we make this movement to make sure that, we can move forward in Virginia the way we'd like to?
Again, I mean, I feel like the arc of history for Virginia right now is pretty impressive. Obviously it's not a single election kind of scenario. And
Right.
I think we now have, while I'm very excited about the slate of governor and lieutenant governor candidates, we can talk about that, we also just have a General Assembly caucus that's very different than the one in the past. And that is already set, assuming we can protect, and again, with slightly better maps,
Right.
Expand. And so I think you're just seeing that generational shift. Charlotte mentioned the Dominion issue, obviously Clean Virginia and its allies have been game changers on that. There's just a very different set of actors, but it's not, as King says, power is never given up by the oppressor. It's demanded by the oppressed. And I don't think this is necessarily a room full of the oppressed, but I think as people who care about that, we are going to have to continue to push the envelope like we do at the federal level of the impact of, corporate lobbyists and people with a narrow sense of the possible. But, that's what primaries are for, is to have a debate, both about the ideas and the candidates. I think the more people have a chance to hear directly from them, it's going to be a good thing.
Yep. And Charlotte.
Yeah, I think that it is very important that we're all paying attention and really like supporting these candidates in the primaries. And then let's settle it at the ballot box. Once we have that candidate, we get behind and we support them. Like, we had no trouble going, to support Northam. I do think one issue that we really need for Virginia, election change wise, is ending odd year elections. As an advocate and a donor, like, it is just so exhausting, our election cycle. Like,
I'm so glad you brought that up, that we have a few fixes that seem like can help us to do this system better. And that is, and we have the majority. Why don't we fix that?
Right. So, and
yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, thank you both for being here. We're going to go to Tom. I hope I have you back, because what I really wanted to also, I can talk all day about this, is the Republicans also struggle in this space with gerrymandering. We see we see that what's happening, more extreme people being elected through the primary process, the way, the districts are. So we're getting, like Riggleman in Virginia, you saw him lose his seat, was it to good? A very contentious primary and a convention, and, how they handled it. So I would love to get deeper into that. This affects everybody, right? Not just Democrats. So.
That's right. And I think this goes to your reform. I really appreciate y'all having me. I'm happy to come back if asked, particularly by my mother. But yes, I think that that this is something, unfortunately, if you look at the 5th district race, in many ways, we got the opponent we wanted because he was so extreme, ran such a terrible, terrible campaign.
Right.
And against, a very, very compelling candidate and Dr. Webb. And still, ultimately, to your point, as I've said for a long time, in many ways, we are now functioning like a parliamentary system, but we're in a first past the post system. And it used to be that your individual member mattered, but now the correlation to DRR voting is almost up to 100%.
Right.
But yet we are still running these races in very different ways. So anyway, lots to be optimistic about.
Yes.
Hope everyone is very actively engaged in this primary and beyond, and as everyone's taking some celebration in these wins that are going to have a meaningful effect on
Yes.
people across Virginia, particularly communities of color, from some of these reforms.
Awesome. Tom Perriello, thank you for being here. Hope mom's still baking those chocolate chip cookies. Charlotte.
Too many.
Yeah. Oh yeah, too many out there. Yeah, you look like you got a
I
son.
can help you eat those cookies, Tom. I send me the cookies.
The cookies are
All
good.
right.
And tireless advocate, Charlotte. You always impress us how you fight for equality, especially for the LGBTQ plus and plus. Thank you so much for all the work you do around that.
My pleasure. And join us at the Equality Virginia Commonwealth
Oh, that's
Dinner
great.
on April 22nd.
You got the plug. You got it. Put it in the chat, my friend. Be well, be safe. Good. Let's go, Krista, and let's get it started. And look, we will be here all the way to the after chat. So I'm just going to let you take it away. And you have some great guests coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Charlotte. What an excellent conversation. We are so excited now to talk more about going your own way, more about challenging the status quo with Angela Casey, who is the new executive director of Virginia People's PAC. So Angela, we are so excited to have you here today. First of all, congratulations with this new role.
Thank you so much.
We just really want to know, talk to us more about the PAC and why do you think it's so important that both campaigns and government is more diverse?
So in essence, the Virginia People's PAC is here to recruit, train, and support senior level diverse staff. And my co-founder and chairman and I, Nick Rathode, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we met just to talk politics, to talk about what's going on in Virginia. And very quickly, we started to notice something, similar. We were realizing that campaign after campaign after campaign, the faces of leadership all look the same. And we knew that we needed to do something to change that. There are programs out there that are changing the face of diversity when it comes to candidates. But we realized there wasn't really much out there when it came to staff, and in particular, senior level staff. We just knew that it was so important that the folks who are decision makers more closely reflect the constituents in which they're serving. So that's really where this idea came from. And so we decided to run with it.
Absolutely. Excellent. So what are some ways that you want to encourage those people who are reluctant to get more involved at that senior leadership level in campaigns?
So one of our big things is to create a network of support. So beyond giving people the intensive hands-on training, we also have master classes. But, one of the things that is missing a lot of times is the network of support. If you enter into the field of politics and you don't know anybody, it can be really intimidating. You don't have anyone to turn to if there are any issues, or if you have questions and you don't know what you're doing. It's tough to ask your bosses or your colleagues if you don't know. So for us, it's really important that we have a network of support for people who are entering in this. And so we hope that people can see that. And so they, are a little bit more willing to jump in and go for it. And we're also being very intentional. We are recruiting. We are reaching out to the HBCUs in Virginia. We're reaching out to different nonprofit organizations and the party in different areas of Virginia to make sure that we are reaching folks everywhere. So, we want to make sure that we have diversity in all kinds of ways. So whether it's age, race, career background, geography, so we want to make sure that we're getting people from Roanoke and Abingdon, as well as from Richmond or Northern Virginia to become leaders in Virginia politics.
I really love that you mentioned about the network. There's a researcher, Laura Morgan Roberts at the University of Virginia. And when she's talking specifically about Black women, she says that a lot of times we do have a wide network, but sometimes that network just doesn't get us where we need to go. So I'm really glad that you all are focusing on the importance of having that strong and effective network. So tell us, how can people support the People's PAC?
So there are a few ways. Check out our website, virginiapeoplespac.com, and we talk more in depth about what we're doing and how we're doing it. Of course, with anything, raising money, we're fundraising so that we can send these, our cohorts through the training and make sure that they have everything that they need. Beyond just the training, we want to make sure that they have some of these tangible benefits, like headshots. A lot of people don't even have, nice professional headshots, making sure that we're getting them resume help. So it doesn't, so they are able to put their best foot forward. We're also starting to put together our master classes. So we're reaching out to the best and brightest minds in Virginia and beyond to talk about not just politics, but, connecting with stakeholders and all types of different subjects. And then also just being there with us. Again, when it comes to that network of support, it's not just people who are working in politics, it's the stakeholders that you will need to connect with once you're in these positions. So we're really just building a network of people who want to see, these leaders succeed.
Absolutely wonderful. And thank you again for your work and your creativity in getting this off the ground. I'm sure everyone is really excited to support, and we look forward to great work. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Krista. I appreciate it.
So next we'll bring up Vina, who is the Executive Director of Emerge Virginia. Thank you, Vina, for joining us. So for the few people on the chat who may not know what Emerge is, please tell us a little bit more about Emerge Virginia.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here today. Emerge Virginia is basically a training program for women who want to run as Democrats in Virginia. So we have Emerge Virginia, and we also have, a national network of different states that also have chapters. And on the surface, it's a training program, and there's lots of training programs out there now after 2016 and sort of all the increased interest in running. One of the things about Emerge is that we really focus on the investment in women. So year after year, we're training women, we're building the bench. And I think a lot of times in politics, what you see is we're thinking really short term. Here's an opening. Oh my God, we have to find someone. Do you know someone? Do you know someone? And we're scrambling around in a sense. What we want to do at Emerge is to have women ready, to have them trained and to have them ready to go. So it's kind of a long-term perspective. We're thinking about this year, we're thinking about 3 years from now. We're thinking about wanting Virginia to be blue in 10 years.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we do is we really focus on skill set. And we also focus on making sure women have the confidence and the belief in themselves to run.
Excellent. So, today, obviously, we're talking about challenging the status quo. And in preparing for this session, we talked a lot about the primary process and the different players in those initial conversations, whether it is someone who is a supporter, whether it's a candidate who wants to challenge and they reach out to their supporters. What does that conversation look like when someone says, well, you know what, to protect my political future, I need to support the incumbent? Do you all talk about that in Emerge? And how do you recommend that we kind of navigate those waters when you have so many people sometimes that aren't ready to go with a challenger?
I think it's a difficult conversation, and we certainly talk about women having the confidence to ask for that support and to not make any assumptions, and then to say next and go to the next person and build up that network. I think if you look at some of the power players in Virginia, I won't name any names, they spent decades building up a network and relationships. And what we need to do through Emerge and through some other programs is to make sure women start building up those networks and to build that power so that down the line they can be elected. Look, I wish we had a bunch of women who could win these elections today, but I know that it's going to take an investment, and I know it's a long game.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so I see the theme of network from both you and Angela Casey. Thank you so much. So lastly, how can people support Emerge?
Well, like every other nonprofit right now, we are struggling, and we are actually having a fundraiser next Friday. And something fun about the fundraiser is we've got Abigail Spanberger on, and we have her mother on. So I think that's kind of neat. And we have a bunch of other, lovely women on. All of them are alum. We have our 4 candidates who are Emerge alum running. So, and they're going to be on the show as well next weekend. So we're excited. Next Friday.
Excellent. I saw that come across my email, and I'm really, really happy. That's going to be a great event. So thank you so much for doing that. Anything else you want to share about Emerge or challenging the status quo?
I'd like to tell every woman on here, if you haven't been through our program, we'd love to have you on here and go through our training. Women never see themselves as candidates. Really quick, I was talking to a woman and I said, "You want to run? Tell me a little bit about you." And she said, "I haven't done anything. I've been too busy. I'm running the church, homeless shelter. I do PTA and I'm getting my graduate degree. So when have I had time to do anything?" And that's the kind of attitude we got to stop, because I stopped her right there and said, "You're already doing so much." I got a guy who's going to run who was an assistant little league coach one summer, and he's saying, "I'm ready, I'm qualified." So we got to get women to believe in themselves. So go through my training program, and I'm going to tell you why you're awesome and why you can do it.
Absolutely. I think it comes down to representation. We just had with Angela in terms of diversity. I think it's both representation and just changing how people think of politics, whatever that means to them, like really putting a new face on that. And I think that's all part of challenging the status quo. It really is.
Absolutely. And I got to say, Emerge, we're here to get women elected, but we are an active and strong anti-racist organization. We are there for change.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Vina. We really loved having you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So next we have Elizabeth Melson, who's going to talk about ranked choice voting. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us today. And when we're talking about challenging the status quo here and now today, there's probably no better topic and a way to address that than talking about ranked choice voting. So again, for those few people on the line who may not fully understand ranked choice voting, can you give us a quick synopsis?
Sure. So it's a small change in the ballot, and it allows you to rank your candidates in the order of preference. And then after that, the tabulation goes through an instant runoff. So kind of like a tournament, and the lowest vote getter is removed. And then the votes are reallocated to the voter's second or third choices until you get to a majority result. So that's the difference between our current system, which is plurality or first past the post, is what Tom termed it as. And that can give you results that aren't reflective of the greater voting mass. So, in the upcoming primaries, we have so many people running, which is a really great thing. But there's a chance that somebody could win with 20% of the vote, which means 80% of the voters preferred somebody else. So we had some great conversations earlier about not taking it personally and how do you challenge somebody you know. And I think ranked choice voting is great for situations when there is a lot of competition, like we're seeing here for the top 3 statewide seats. And for a county like where I live, where there's very little competition. And maybe because we're more humble and we know our neighbors personally and we don't want to step up to challenge our neighbor. Well, if we had ranked choice voting, hey, I could be the second choice to the incumbent that I really respect, but I also want to be a representative, you know? So ranked choice voting is a solution to a lack of competition and to a wide field of candidates as well.
Excellent. I really love that description. Thank you for outlining it that way for us. So who are the latest institutions who have adopted ranked choice voting?
Well, many states are starting to adopt it. The big one that we just saw was Alaska, and they went to a top 4 open primary with ranked choice voting. But many localities, cities and towns are adopting across the nation. You know, Arlington Democrats have used it to endorse candidates for many years. The Republican Party is now using it in their convention coming up to choose their candidates for this November election. It was a great solution during the pandemic for congressional conventions because, you know, instead of having a long all-day runoff, large gathering, parties could do unassembled and more efficiently choose their candidates using ranked choice voting. So we were, you know, nobody wanted to go through the pandemic, but as an organization, we were like, wow, what a great way to get more people exposed to ranked choice voting than to use it as a solution during the pandemic.
And have you seen any challenges? Are there any challenges with implementing the ranked choice voting?
The main challenges are going to be looking at the localities and if their equipment is currently capable for tabulation. And what we found years ago in 2018 was most localities have capable equipment. There were a few localities that did not, and likely they need to replace their equipment anyway because it's legacy. There are things that need to be worked out between the localities and the State Board of Election, which are in the process. Some of the local directors of elections are in conversation with the state and trying to figure those pieces out. And currently what we have is a bill that was passed last year that allows city councils and boards of supervisor to choose to adopt ranked choice voting. And that goes into effect July 1st of this year. And there was a separate bill for Arlington that, you know, they could do it now if they wanted to.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, how can people support Fair Vote Virginia?
Right now, we just want volunteers. I mean, money's nice, but we really want volunteers, and we want people activated in every locality that has a will to implement ranked choice voting, because we'd love to see it get successfully implemented in a few different areas, both conservative leaning and progressive leaning, and because we believe that it can improve many different types of issues.
Excellent. Just the right thing to do. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, so much for joining us today. And we're going to turn it back over to Catherine.
I'm muted. I'm unmuted. Hey, I wanted to let everybody know too, speaking of spring cleaning and getting things done, Robin, you had your vaccine and you had your vaccine done at where? This was the best story.
I had my vaccine done at Pier 1. So I got to go there, be color coordinated. They had all sorts of photo op places. They had a step and repeat. They had little stickers, but we didn't get matching pillows with our vaccine. Who knew?
That is crazy. Did anybody ever think you can go to Pier 1 and get your vaccine and then get a step and repeat? I mean, that is just, I love it.
It was a celebration. They made it fun.
Well, Network Nova was just yesterday was this worked in partnership with our friends at Rowan Tree to do a vaccine equity panel that Stair was really instrumental in helping put together with Paul Berry, Kate, and that team, and a few others that were awesome. And Jeff McKay was there, and it was really interesting. And I suggest that we send that out to our group, because if you're a Fairfax resident, you'll see the struggle within this COVID, the vaccine and equity, but this is where we need to go, outside the box at Pier 1 Import. Our next guest, Becca Blake. Becca, where are you, first of all?
She's right there.
She's right in front of me. Becca Blass. How are you, Becca? A blue bonnet. Everything tastes better on it. I'm so sorry I said that. I couldn't help myself. You know me.
Yeah, Bluebonnet Data. We're named after a flower, not the butter.
Yeah, I know. And it's a child that watched TV and too much Lost in Space. This is what happened. So I'm so glad you're here. And you fit, in my mind, really well into this segment because you are doing something different. You have, I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk about Bluebonnet and what you are doing, rather than, I'm just going to hand it right over to you, but I'm just excited that you're bringing something new to Virginia, and people don't know about this yet, for the most part.
Yeah, we're really excited about Virginia. To tell you a little bit about Bluebonnet, we're a nonprofit. We got started in 2018 as the first in-house data team for Beto O'Rourke's campaign for Senate. And that started out as one person, my friend Nathan, who was a senior at Harvard at the time. He had just gotten his US citizenship. He was mad that he could not vote against Donald Trump, and he figured the next best thing was to vote against Ted Cruz. So he sent Beto a LinkedIn message and said, I'm studying statistics and data science. I'd love to help out with your campaign. Heard back from Beto, joined the team, started helping out with data science, and very quickly realized that there are a lot of data projects on campaigns, but not that many data people. So he ended up recruiting other computer science and data science students to join him. One email bounced around, turned into a couple of dozen volunteers. They not only helped Beto, but 7 other congressional campaigns, and our mission grew from there. So we worked in 8 campaigns in 2018, another dozen in 2019, and last year over 400 campaigns nationwide, helping out with data science.
Well, and if you can get deeper in that so people know exactly what you're talking about when you say your mission is democratize data, talk about what you actually do when you're talking about, like, is it analytics? How do you use the data? Like, for a regular person, how would you use it in a race? Like, is it trying to identify who's in your precinct? And then talk about the people that you hire and the volunteers that to do all this data analysis also.
Definitely. We've got a bit of a 2-pronged approach to it, because not only are we trying to help campaigns become more data driven, and that's working with your voter file, census data. Data plays a role in every single part of a campaign. It's finance, field, internal strategy, just generally optimizing the way that you run a campaign, but also the long-term need for data, especially, looking in Virginia, where we're about to have Groundhog Day of campaigning for the next 3 years. If you can put in that data work now and understand who your voters are, and also understanding the bias in the voter file, who's being left off of the voter file, who's been intentionally purged from it, where are the voters that are moving into your district, how can you reach them? So that's the data side, and how we are mobilizing to work with that data is we're trying to bring a new generation into the Democratic space. So we're recruiting people from STEM backgrounds, that's coding, data science, engineering, and we're training them on the political side of how to use their skills. So how to calculate a win number and build a path to victory, scrape census data, integrate it with the voter file to create an in-depth district analysis. And we're giving them that first stepping stone to getting involved in progressive politics by creating volunteer opportunity.
Well, I believe it or not, I'm super excited about this subject, because I remember when we got involved years ago, I saw that how data could be used so powerfully in so many ways. We saw that even when they gerrymandered and drew the maps, getting information, getting data, our personal data, how you vote, targeting each house, knowing what people shop, buy, do, eat. They can find you, target you, send you mailers, and it's very, very powerful. And that the fact that you have people willing to volunteer and help. So So the next question, because we need to get to our after chat, and we hope you stay with us too, is how do people, so you're free, or a campaign can hire you. How do you work with candidates? Could they just say, hey, I really need help on my campaign? And is it simple as that? Or what is it?
Yeah, so as a nonprofit, we can't give in-kind contributions. So we charge a one-time matching fee to campaigns of $500. And then that's just to connect them with a volunteer data team. After that, everything the volunteers do is as volunteers with that campaign. So that each person is putting in 5 to 7 hours a week to help on the data and technical side of the campaign. And you usually have a team of between 3 to 5 people. So combined, you're getting, the equivalent of a part-time data director on your campaign who's doing it as a volunteer. So candidates can reach out to us on our website. We have a contact form on the candidate page. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well if anybody wants to follow up. And we're taking a few more candidates for our summer cohort for this year, and then we'll be lining people up for the next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many organizations need this help, even ours. I mean, data, people that know how to do this stuff is super great. So we love the work you're doing. You just really, coming into Virginia, we hope that the Democratic Party, somebody will open up that table for you there too a little bit, to work with candidates more and work with the party more. That would be my awesome dream, to get more digital, a little bit, bring it up to speed in the digital realm, which was where it's at, as we say. So thank you, Becca. We'll be in touch. We have a lot of candidates in this room that are running, and I hope they do reach out to and take advantage of what you're offering. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. And okay, so everybody, what a great show. Why don't you join me up on the screen, Krista? I feel like I didn't get enough yellow today. So anyways, we're ending out, and I think we should make sure that we remember to tell people to support our show.
Absolutely. There are so many different ways that you can support the show.
That's right. Twitter, you can tweet out about us. You could you can see our Twitter handle, go to our Twitter space and just build that capacity up for us, because that's also a fun space to be in, where we can get the word out. Become a patron, and we'll put that in the chat. And you can see around the room, all our friends are here. Some of them have the Zoom backgrounds. So that's super. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. But I would like to thank all of our guests that were here today, 7 of them. From Tom, Charlotte, Angela, Becca, Vina, on the top of my head, Elizabeth. That's why you're here, because I'm not looking, so I need your help. Anybody else I'm forgetting besides the team?
I think go ahead, Robin.
Well, I was just going to add that we have 2 new supporters. Bonnie Rollins came in, a badass, and Marianne joined. So amazing, very exciting.
Marianne supporting us, awesome, that's great. Okay, so here's a teaser for next week. We're going to do April 16th for next week's Power Lunch. It will be all about anti-racism and equity. How do we need to build a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture? And so we'll have Brandy Faulkner here. She is a professor of Black Studies at Virginia Tech, and also Barika Porter from Black Women United for Action, Paul Berry, chair of Virginia Latino Advisory Board. So we hope you'll join us. We'll probably, by the end of this week, have about 12 more people coming, but right now we know about 3. We're so happy you're here, and we will, let's say, roll it and stay for the after chat.
Want to remind people again what the after chat's about?
No, okay. The after chat's going to be about after chatting, but Matt Rogers is here to talk about the situation with the candidates not being able, the state election board not granting them the extension. So we're going to find out maybe the story behind it, and then see how we can do, if there's any way we can take action and help them get on the ballot.
Absolutely.
All right, let's roll it.